No intro this time around. Instead, I'm going to play something that I want to play, which actually hasn't happened in quite some time. Perfect Dark was released on the Xbox Live Arcade, and I just couldn't download it fast enough. I tried to tell other people about it, but they'd be like, well, what about GoldenEye? Why can't I download that game? Don't get your hopes up. There's just too many fingers in that pudding. But I don't care. Perfect Dark was my shit. But why would I pay for something that I already own? Well, the promise of 60 frames per second on a rare first-person shooter is enough. Oh, if you want an acronym, how about GISHAOTYAIIWAWROGFTNR? Game I should have mentioned on 10 years ago if I wasn't already writing reviews on game facts that nobody read.
So let's bring out the 360 and lower the wireless antenna because I'm not going to cover online multiplayer. The cost of the game is 800 points, but you can only buy points in increments of 500. Yeah, it's a scam. Nintendo does it too, but what you gonna do? When I started up and heard all these game sounds, I got chills of excitement. They always meant I was about to play something great. And at the same time, it felt kinda dirty. That N used to represent the Nintendo 64, now it's just an artifact of conversion. What, you couldn't think of something better to put in its place? In the solo missions, you play as Joanna Dark, an agent for the Carrington Institute. Your first mission is to rescue Dr. Carroll from Dain. As you'll learn, Carrington has a real hard-on for screwing with Dain. Dain, in collaboration with an alien race known as the Skedar, are using Dr. Carroll to activate another alien's ancient weapon that crashed into our ocean. But they also need the Pelagic 2, a deep-sea diving ship, to reach that weapon. But they need approval from the president, and they aren't getting it, so they're just gonna clone him. So you and another alien get to stop all this. Also, it's the year 2023. Not quite as straightforward as GoldenEye, but it sure made for one hell of a commercial. I made the mistake of assuming that Perfect Dark Xbox Live Arcade was a remake. Nope, it's a port, with some other stuff. Aside from keeping all the same music and voiceovers, I knew this was a port because when Joanna lands on this platform, she still reaches behind herself to grab her gun while holding her gun. The textures are now higher resolution, but we all know that. The character models have been slightly updated, which I'm very thankful for. Even back in the day, I thought everybody's head looked like they were on soup cans. But the rest of the game, you know, the objectives, the core gameplay, the ability to hold 40 guns, it's all here! Now what made the game so great? Well, it was a very finely tuned first-person shooter. There were loads of objectives, and increasing your difficulty gave you more. I would go on, but I believe a backlash of disagreement is coming. If you've never played Perfect Dark, or you're just too young for the N64 era, this Xbox Live Arcade version might have you saying, why is it that everybody has the ability to talk, but nobody's mouth moves? Are their faces paralyzed along with their fingers? I would prefer that they don't talk. Their delivery's terrible. And why is the Chicago level so small? Is there a good reason why this block is fenced off? And this music? Ugh! Another game, another synthesizer. I'm about to use a defense tactic that I cannot stand. I'm gonna use the words, well, back then. Honestly, I hate it when people do this. I think it's a weak method of defending a game against valid complaints. To me, saying, well, back then gives you about as much credibility as starting out a YouTube video by saying, hey guys, Well, back then, this was an epic title, and having that much speech and music for the Nintendo 64 was just unheard of. Back then, a level like Chicago may have been normal, but levels like Area 51 were huge. Few other shooters could handle the outdoors so gracefully and without fogging out completely. Now, let's just throw that argument out. Could it be that this port is reminding me of a very happy time in my life and nostalgia is getting the better of me? Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. I think more gamers need to realize that the state of gaming is just fine. Games in general did not get worse. You, however, got older. And this untouchable idea that retro gamers have a better product is laughably false. Perfect Dark is just an important game to me because it's one of the first games that I bought new with my own money. I care about it so much that I retained the original box, cartridge, and instruction booklet. I subscribed to Nintendo Power just so I could get the player's guide, and that's one of the best literary works I've ever read. Let me just end this unentertaining segment by saying that I'm still cool with all these guys within my age group that are into retro gaming so long as they realize that the games are better because they're reminiscing of a time when they didn't have to get a job and pay for their own electric bill. And with that thought in mind, let's bring out the Nintendo 64 with an expansion pack, another one of Nintendo's scams, and do what I presume that everybody else has already done. Side-by-side comparisons. Well, that looks different. And that looks just wrong. Something I didn't even take notice of until the side-by-side comparison is the Xbox Live Arcade version is presented in widescreen. The N64 did have a widescreen, but it was weird. And the controls on the Xbox are clearly better. Now don't get it twisted, back then, the N64 controls were perfect. But now we've been so conditioned by games like Call of Duty and Fun Times with the Lancer that going back to the one-stick setup is mentally challenging. And since the newer controller has more buttons, you don't have to push and hold for some of the options. Wow, my cartridge is becoming less valuable by the minute. And for those who want to nitpick, yeah, I know you can use 2 controllers to get 2 sticks, but no matter what, the left one will not strafe. Rare still claims that the president is black, while I maintain that he looks more Hispanic. Trent still says my state's name.
Nevada.
Nowadays, they can't say Donkey Kong because Nintendo owns the rights to that, and always has. So DK mode is now Monkey mode. Long ago, I remember seeing a dirty word in the original credits. Now, this version has another, Peter Molyneux. Both versions have the cheat system, which is something I've been touting for a long time. Everyone seems to get a half stock when talking about achievements, while I've been touting back then they had something way better. If you beat a level in a certain time on a certain difficulty, or if you will, achieve that time, you get a cheat, which is infinitely more useful than adding to your stupid gamer score. And 10 years ago, I shot all the bottles in Carrington's wine cellar not because there was an achievement attached to it, I did it because it was just entertaining! Oh wow, Storm's complaining about never getting to play a game that he wants when all he does with his spare time is play games. To avoid such complaints, we're going to enter that proverbial bonus round. And that round is called, How is Perfect Dark as a Franchise? Going back 4 years, or going forward 6 years, or in terms of the games, going back 3 years, let's bring out Perfect Dark Zero for the Xbox 360. It was originally slated for the GameCube, but in 2002, Microsoft did an aggressive takeover of Rareware, and that's why there haven't been any good Donkey Kong games in a while. I really don't have a whole lot to say here. It's an alright shooter, but the problem is it's got the Perfect Dark name on it. That used to mean something. I've always been cool with franchises that improve on their formula, but that isn't the case with Perfect Dark Zero. It's like they revamped it by making it not special, and then tried to fill in plot holes that just weren't there, and in the process actually introduced some. If there's one thing that I liked about the game, it would be that it showcases the console's ability to render Doom 3 bump maps. And if there were 2 things, it would be the Triforce and the Mission 13 briefing. However, the game is really short, it fails to impress, everybody runs like the floor is made of an air cushion, and leaves me wondering, how could armor fly off of somebody like that? If it's any comfort, the official music video for Perfect Dark Zero was Glitter Girl, and that music video was directed by our very own GISHAOTYAIIWAWROGFTNR. So, once more, if you think the game sucked, you can blame this guy. If you install Perfect Dark Zero on your 360, you'll unlock some cheats in Perfect Dark Xbox Live Arcade, which is similar to the functionality of the Transfer Pack, the Game Boy Color game, and the Nintendo 64. Yeah, I'll show you this game. One of my siblings lost my Game Boy Advance a long time ago, so let's bring out the Nintendo...
Crap!
Okay, let's bring out the...
Crap!
Okay, right, let's bring out the GameCube with attached Game Boy player. Going back to the same year as Perfect Dark Nintendo 64, and 1 year back at the Perfect Dark Space-Time Continuum, this is your first mission with the Carrington Institute. Are you ready to have your mind blown? It had voiceovers! It's a bit intimidating playing a Game Boy Color game with a GameCube controller, but ain't no thing. A fires, B reloads, and select, or one of these buttons, checks a body. Something frustrating about combat, forget it, the game was horrible. Can't believe I bought it that long ago. If you wanted a summary, you could get it in comic book form in the Perfect Dark Player's Guide. One thing that it doesn't go over though is that she's always shooting targets that look like Sigourney Weaver. You have to agree with me on this one, go watch Alien Resurrection, this looks like Sigourney Weaver. But really, I'm just having trouble keeping up with all these plot holes. If she blew up the Pelagic 1, why did she have to ask the president what the Pelagic 2 was? If this is Dr. Carroll in human form, why didn't they have a profile on him? If Joanna fought alongside Jonathan, why was she unable to identify him in Area 51? If Joanna saw this alien, spoke to it, went inside his aircraft, and told Daniel Carrington about it, why was she in disbelief when she saw this footage? Oh, check this out. Widescreen pillar box, widescreen pillar box. So, by democratic rule, Perfect Dark sucks. There is one thing that the Game Boy Color game is good for. If you happen across a AAA battery, you can put it in the back of the game pack. And then after some clever placement, you can hit the fire button and activate the rumble pack. Sorry, I know that was wrong, but I get lonely.